I never imagined I'd be standing here, in my corner office overlooking the skyline of Chicago, sipping a latte from my favorite cafe, and feeling a surge of satisfaction that borders on disbelief. The sunlight hits the glass walls just right, and I notice the soft shimmer of my silk blouse as it brushes against my wrist. My phone buzzes, again, and I glance at the screen, expecting another routine client email. But it isn't that. It's a message from someone I haven't heard from in years, someone who once laughed at my ridiculous plan. I pause, letting the memory linger. The thought makes my lips curve in a faint, ironic smile. I've built everything they said I couldn't. Every blueprint, every late night, every dollar scrimped and saved has led to this moment. And yet, a tiny flicker of anxiety pushes through, the kind you get when the past you've buried decides to knock at your door. I run my fingers over the polished mahogany desk and feel the cool weight of the small, engraved pendant my grandmother gave me years ago, a gift she insisted would remind me that persistence always wins. I remember her voice. They'll doubt you. Let them. But never doubt yourself. The sound of the phone buzzes again, more urgent this time. I take a deep breath, straighten my posture, and glance once more at the message. The words on the screen are simple, but their meaning is anything but. It's time to face the people who mocked my plan. I remember that day like it was yesterday, even though it was almost a decade ago. I was 24, sitting across from my family in our cramped living room in suburban Ohio. My proposal was simple, or so I thought. A boutique coffee and workspace concept, a place where creativity could thrive, a place I could call my own. But when I spoke, the room erupted in laughter. Jess, that's not practical, my older brother scoffed, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed. People aren't going to pay just to sit and sip coffee while pretending to be productive. You're dreaming. Mom shook her head, the disappointment in her eyes cutting sharper than any words. You're too young, Jessica. Focus on a stable job, a real career. You're chasing fantasies. I felt my hands tremble under the table. The lump in my throat was suffocating. I wanted to argue, to make them see that I was serious, that I had a plan, that I had already researched the market and crunched the numbers. But their disbelief was suffocating, like a heavy blanket I couldn't shake off. Then, my grandmother, Nana June, quietly slid into the room, her knitting needles clicking softly. She rested a gentle hand on my shoulder. Jessica, she said, her voice calm but firm, they can laugh all they want, but don't let it drown out your own voice. You've got something they can't see yet. Vision. Protect it. Nurture it. And when the time comes, show them. She handed me a small, worn leather journal, its pages yellowed with age. Write it all down. Every idea, every plan, every step. One day, you'll look back and see how far you've come. That night, alone in my tiny apartment, I held that journal to my chest and felt a spark ignite inside me. The doubts, the laughter, the dismissive glances, they didn't have to define me. I decided then that I wouldn't just try, I would prove them wrong. I plotted, I planned, and I promised myself I'd never let their words become my limits. That promise became my compass, my secret weapon, the quiet force that pushed me toward independence and, eventually, toward the empire I would quietly build. I still remember the first time I signed a lease for a tiny, sunlit storefront in downtown Chicago. It was nothing fancy, just exposed brick, scuffed floors, and a flickering neon sign, but it was mine. Holding the keys in my hand, I felt a mix of exhilaration and terror. I had no investors, no safety net, and no one cheering me on. All I had was Nana June's journal and a stubborn refusal to fail. The first few months were brutal. I spent long nights cleaning tables, experimenting with coffee blends, and designing marketing flyers on my laptop. Self-doubt whispered in the quiet corners of the store. Could I really turn this dream into a sustainable business? But each morning, when the first customer walked through the door and smiled at the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, I felt a small, defiant surge of pride. It wasn't long before I met someone who changed everything. Marissa, a seasoned entrepreneur with a chain of co-working spaces, walked in one rainy afternoon, umbrella dripping, and ordered a cappuccino. She stayed, and we talked for hours about vision, branding, and perseverance. "Jessica," she said, eyes bright with conviction, "you've got something most people never find. Don't waste it. Let me help you grow." Her mentorship became my lifeline, a guiding hand when my own confidence wavered. I remember sleepless nights studying finances, navigating permits, and learning everything about running a business that no one had taught me. There were days I cried into the espresso machine, convinced I was failing. But slowly, steadily, things began to shift. My first big client, a local design firm, signed a contract that covered the rent for 6 months. My first profitable weekend felt like a victory parade in my small, determined heart. I became adept at keeping my success hidden from the people who once doubted me. Family visits were met with modest updates, carefully curated social media posts, and vague references to work projects. I didn't need them to witness my climb. I wanted them to realize it when I reached the summit. By the 3rd year, I had expanded into 2 more locations, each one reflecting my vision: sleek, welcoming spaces where creativity and comfort intertwined. I hired a small team, trained them to uphold the culture I had fought so hard to cultivate, and slowly, my quiet little plan became something bigger than I had imagined. At night, I'd often sit in my office, surrounded by the aroma of roasted beans and polished wood, flipping through Nana June's journal. Each page reminded me that the whispers of doubt from my past were nothing compared to the roar of persistence. And somewhere deep inside, I knew that one day, those who mocked me would finally see the woman I had become. I heard the familiar sound of footsteps in the lobby before I even saw them. The office doors slid open, and in walked the people who had once laughed at my ridiculous plan. My brother, my mother, and a few old family friends, all wearing expressions that I could only describe as a mixture of curiosity and smug expectation. They probably thought they'd see me frazzled, struggling to keep the business afloat, maybe hiding behind part-time jobs or unpaid bills. I let them take in the room for a moment. The walls were adorned with modern art I'd handpicked from local artists. A sleek, glass coffee display gleamed under the soft lighting, showcasing a curated collection of our signature blends. My team moved efficiently in the background, greeting clients with warmth and professionalism. The air carried the subtle scent of freshly ground beans and vanilla candles. "Jessica," my mother's voice wavered. She looked around, her eyes widening as they traveled from the polished floors to the logo emblazoned on the wall behind my desk. "Yes," I said, stepping out from behind my desk, wearing the confidence I had cultivated over years of sleepless nights and tireless effort. My heels clicked softly against the floor, a rhythm that mirrored the steady beat of my heart. "It's me." My brother's mouth opened, then closed. This isn't what I expected," he muttered. I smiled, a mixture of amusement and quiet triumph. "No, it isn't," I said. "Because this isn't a small cafe. It's the headquarters of a growing franchise. We have 7 locations now, and the 8th opens next month. We employ over 50 people, and our revenue has doubled every year for the past 3 years." Their faces fell, a mix of disbelief and shame. The same expressions they wore when they dismissed me, but now reversed, mirrored, rendered powerless. My mother's hands trembled as she reached for her purse, as if to steady herself against the revelation. My brother's jaw tightened, his eyes searched mine, perhaps looking for a hint that I had somehow faltered, that there was a mistake. But there wasn't. "I remember the day I told you my plan," I continued, my voice calm but firm, carrying the weight of every sleepless night, every ounce of determination, every tear shed in silence. "You said it was impossible. You said I was dreaming. And you laughed. But I didn't stop. I didn't listen to the doubt, and I certainly didn't let it define me." The silence in the room was palpable, heavy with the echoes of past derision. I let them absorb the truth, letting the power of the moment settle in before I added, "Everything you see here, the spaces, the brand, the team, the revenue, it's mine. I built it from scratch. I did what you said I couldn't." The shame was evident now, but so was awe. I could see them struggling to reconcile the girl they had dismissed with the woman standing before them, a self-made entrepreneur commanding her empire with grace and strength. And for the first time in years, I felt fully, undeniably, seen, not as their daughter, their sister, or their joke, but as the woman I had fought to become. I let the silence hang a little longer, watching the faces of those who had once mocked me twist with realization. Now the power had shifted. I was no longer the girl they could dismiss. I was the woman they had underestimated, and every word I spoke from here on would carry weight. Now, I began, folding my hands on the polished desk. We need to talk about what comes next. Their eyes widened. This wasn't the confrontation they expected. There was no shouting, no pleading, just measured authority. I've built this, yes, but I'm not heartless. I'm willing to support you, under one condition. You have to prove you're willing to grow, not just follow the same patterns that held you back before. My brother shifted uncomfortably, and I met his gaze. You've spent years putting me down, telling me I couldn't do this. That stops now. If you want to be part of this world, or even just proud of your sister, you need to take responsibility. You need to stop letting fear dictate your life and start pursuing your own ambitions. My mother's hands were clasped together so tightly that I could see the knuckles turn white. Mom, I said softly, I know your intentions came from concern, but protecting me from failure isn't the same as nurturing me. If you want a relationship with me that's honest and healthy, you need to let go of judgment and start supporting, or, at the very least, understanding. I turned to the family friends, the ones who had laughed at my plan during that living room meeting years ago. You've all had your say. You've all had your moments. Now it's time to either step up or step aside. Toxic habits, dismissive attitudes, petty jealousies, those end here. We're building something bigger, and I won't let old patterns poison the future. I could see their hesitation, the internal struggle to accept these terms. And that's when I softened, letting a touch of warmth enter my tone. This isn't just about business. It's about growth. It's about proving that we can change, that we can support each other, and that we can be proud without tearing anyone down. If you're willing to do that, I'll guide you, just as Marissa guided me when I was starting out. But it has to be real. No shortcuts. No excuses. They nodded slowly, some faces still flushed with guilt, others with cautious hope. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy for them. But I also knew that finally, I had the upper hand. And this time, I wouldn't let anyone derail me. Not with doubt, not with ridicule, and certainly not with judgment. For the first time, the room felt balanced. The past was acknowledged, the power had shifted, and the future, mine and theirs, was up for negotiation on my terms. I had learned the art of empathy without compromise, strength without cruelty, and the value of standing firm while offering the chance to grow. The people who had once mocked my plan were now listening, really listening, and that alone was victory enough. Weeks passed after that confrontation, and I watched the changes unfold with a quiet sense of satisfaction. My brother enrolled in a leadership course he had always dismissed as too intense, diving into projects with the same determination I had once been told was foolish. Mom started volunteering at a local community center, channeling her protective instincts into helping others rather than trying to control me. Even the family friends began small businesses of their own, inspired by the vision they had once mocked. Through it all, I continued to build my franchise, now expanding into new cities, mentoring young entrepreneurs, and refining the brand I had dreamed into reality. Yet, the greatest reward wasn't the revenue or the expansion. It was witnessing the growth of those I once thought incapable of change. Late at night, I often sit in my office, the soft glow of the desk lamp reflecting off the glass windows, and run my fingers over Nana June's leather journal. Its worn pages are a reminder of where it all began, the spark she had nurtured, and the quiet power of persistence. I traced the handwriting of her advice one last time. They'll doubt you. Let them. But never doubt yourself. I smile, realizing that the doubters were no longer a threat. They had become part of the story, proof of how far I had come. I've learned that success isn't just about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about cultivating resilience, nurturing your vision, and embracing the woman you're meant to be, even when the world doubts you. And now, with the people who once dismissed me growing in their own ways, I feel an unmatched sense of closure. I rise from my chair, walking past the polished floors and elegant artwork that symbolize years of effort, perseverance, and belief. I glance out at the city's skyline once more, the lights of Chicago sparkling like a testament to dreams realized. And as I take a deep breath, I know this is more than victory. It's a legacy. A reminder that when they mocked your plan, it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of everything you were destined to become. I built my empire. They laughed. And now it's a franchise.